Hello and welcome back to yet another video on the Alejandro Hernandez podcast. These are going to be my official picks for the Week 13 slate of the NFL season. It was honestly my best week of the year last week in Week 12. We went 13-1 straight up. Our only loss was the Saints against the Falcons. And in hindsight, that was really just a pick 'em. It was Kirk Cousins against Tyler Show. I went with the home team. The Falcons ended up getting the win. But however, the other 13 games were just absolute sharp picks. I had all three. Well, there was four upsets in the week, but I had three out of the four correct. With the Texans on Thursday Night Football over the Bills, the Cowboys upsetting the Philadelphia Eagles, and then the Browns upsetting the Las Vegas Raiders. So we're gonna try and do it again this week. I believe I have three big upsets in this week's slate, and I have a lot of underdogs covering the spread. So without further ado, let's get into it. Starting off with Thanksgiving. This Thanksgiving slate has got to go down as one of the best slates we've ever had. It's a lot of contenders. Pretty much everyone's fantasy team is playing today. It's going to be a fun day of football. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. With the 1 p.m. game, it's going to be the Detroit Lions squaring off against the Green Bay Packers. I like the Lions in this spot to win and cover the spread, which is set at -2.5. I think that they have Detroit has a bad taste in their mouth after the way they got beat down in week 1 against the Packers in Lambeau. I believe they are going to respond and assert themselves as the best team in the NFC North with a statement win today. I think Jared Goff, the one concern I have for the Lions in this game is their pass protection against that Green Bay pass rush with Micah Parsons and Rashawn Gary. Green Bay has some real pass rushers, and they can really get after the quarterback. So what I'm expecting from Detroit is a run-heavy approach with Jahmyr Gibbs, who has been absolutely carving up every single defense he's played. And then they're going to play off play action. They're going to hit those play action digs to Jamison Williams and Amon-Ra St. Brown. They'll probably hit a big play to Jamison Williams downfield, and they're just going to roll. I think the Lions offense is going to roll very early on. Green Bay is going to be playing from behind, which is going to force Jordan Love to throw, and I believe he might make a mistake or two in this game. He might give Detroit extra possessions with either a fumble or an interception. Aiden Hutchinson has to have a big game for Detroit today. I expect Kelvin Shepard, the defensive coordinator for the Lions, to play a ton of man coverage and force Jordan Love and those Packers receivers to beat man coverage. And that is what Green Bay has struggled against this season, because when Green Bay plays against man coverage, the receivers cannot create separation. So I expect a great game plan from Kelvin Shepard, a ton of blitzing, a ton of man coverage. I think that's going to overwhelm Jordan Love into a couple mistakes, and Detroit is going to take advantage of that. Their home field advantage is going to play a huge factor in this game, and I think the spread at -2.5 is a steal. I'm only getting a field goal for the home team, so I love this pick. Give me Detroit to win and cover at home for the first game of Thanksgiving. And now for probably the most anticipated game of the entire slate, it's going to be the Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes' first game in Jerry World against the Dallas Cowboys. And I'm going to lean Kansas City in this game to win the game. However, I do believe the sharp side in this game is Cowboys plus 3.5. I think this game ends in a walk-off field goal, if I'm being completely honest. Either by Harrison Butker or Brandon Aubrey. It could go either way. And a lot of people are trusting Dallas's offense over the Chiefs' offense. And although Dallas on paper has the better offense, in a big spot like this, in a must-win game for Kansas City, I have to lean towards that side because they've been there and done that with Patrick Mahomes. And I believe the Cowboys' biggest weakness right now is their secondary. And I think this is the Chiefs' game to get right offensively in terms of the pass game. I'm expecting a career game from Rashee Rice. I think he goes off today. And I believe that the Cowboys have not a single defensive back in their room that can cover Rashee Rice one-on-one. And the Cowboys have stopped the run very well. Well, luckily for the Chiefs, their strength is not running the football, it's throwing the ball with Mahomes. So I expect a very pass-heavy approach from the Chiefs. I think they're going to march up and down the field effortlessly. And the matchup to look out for right now in this game on the offensive side of the ball for the Chiefs and the defensive side of the ball for the Cowboys is the impact of Quentin Williams. How impactful is he going to be in this game? Because his first two games in Dallas, he's been an absolute game wrecker. He has completely wrecked the game for both the Raiders and the Eagles. And can the Chiefs neutralize him today? And they're down a big piece in their offensive line. They're down Trey Smith. So I expect a lot of doubles to go Quentin Williams' way. Hopefully the Chiefs have a game plan to shut him down, and I believe they will. And I expect Patrick Mahomes to use his legs. The Cowboys historically have struggled mightily against rushing quarterbacks, against scrambling quarterbacks, and I expect Mahomes to use his legs heavily in this game. I think the Cowboys are going to come out and play some man coverage on these Chiefs receivers, and with safeties over the top, and then everyone's going to have their back turned to Mahomes. He's going to scramble, and I believe that is what's going to kill the Cowboys. Now on the other side of the ball, with Dak Prescott, this Cowboys offense has been operating at an extremely high level, And I believe Trent McDuffie of the Chiefs is going to travel with CeeDee Lamb, which then puts George Pickens in one-on-one situations. And Steve Spagnuolo has to have a game plan ready for these receivers. However, I just don't think Kansas City is capable of slowing down this pass game of Dallas. So I expect a very high-scoring game, a back-and-forth game. I expect Dak Prescott to bring his A game, Patrick Mahomes to bring his A game. But ultimately, when the chips are down in the fourth quarter, who do I trust more, Patrick Mahomes or Dak Prescott? I'm going to pick Patrick Mahomes 10 times out of 10. So that's why I lean Kansas City in this spot to win on a walk-off field goal. And probably the score is probably going to be in the high 20s to low 30s. So that's what I'm expecting for this game. Give me the Chiefs to win the game, but the Cowboys to cover the spread at plus 3.5. And now for tonight's game, it's going to be the Baltimore Ravens hosting the Cincinnati Bengals. I like the Ravens to win and cover the spread, which is set at negative 6.5. I'm going to lean Ravens because they're just a way better roster, if I'm being completely honest. People are going to lean Bengals. Oh, it's Joe Burrow's return. He hasn't played in months. So my expectations, I wouldn't say are low for Joe Burrow, but they're definitely, I'm not expecting prime Joe Burrow to come out in this game and absolutely torch the Ravens because it's his first game in 3 months. And who knows if the toe is even healthy because his estimated timeline was mid-December and he's coming back on Thanksgiving. So he's coming back ahead of schedule. We're not completely sure how that toe is going to look. We've seen Brock Purdy recovering from the same exact injury and he doesn't have the same zip on the football. All of his throws are floating on him, which caused him to throw 3 interceptions on the Panthers. So I don't think Joe Burrow is going to look 100% tonight. I think the Ravens are going to blitz heavily, and especially now that they don't have to worry about T. Higgins because he's out with a concussion, they are going to solely focus on stopping Jamar Chase, which they haven't been able to do at all in their history in these matchups. So I expect Joe Burrow to favor Jamar Chase heavily. He probably gets 10 plus receptions, but if I'm being honest, I think the Bengals will play this game from behind the entire game. I think the Ravens will lean on their run game with Derrick Henry. I believe he's probably going to get 25 plus carries in this game for over 100 yards easily, multiple touchdowns. Lamar Jackson, we don't even know about his health. So I don't expect Lamar to come out and start running like crazy. I think he's still going to play a conservative game. They're going to lean on Derrick Henry. They're going to lean on Zay Flowers in the short passing game. Lamar Jackson will play off play action. I expect a big game from the Ravens tight ends. I think Mark Andrews gets in the end zone, and I expect a big play from Isaiah Likely as well. So I think the Ravens will dominate this game from start to finish. The Bengals will be playing from behind, and I expect the Ravens to cover by a touchdown. So that's why I favor Baltimore in this matchup. Now for the Black Friday game, it's going to be the Philadelphia Eagles hosting the Chicago Bears. I'm going to lean Philadelphia to win the game, but I do believe the Bears will cover the plus 7.5. The Bears are one of the hottest teams in all of football right now. They have won 8 out of their last 9 games after starting 0-2, and I love the vibes in Chicago right now. They've built a winning atmosphere. They've built a winning culture in their very first season under Ben Johnson. And their offense has been very underrated this season. It's one of the least talked about phases of the game of any team this entire season. Caleb Williams has had a very sneaky good year. He's improving game by game by game ever since last year. He has cut his sacks, I think, in a third, not even in a half. I think he's only been sacked 17 times in 10 games or 11 games. He's massively improved that facet of his game. He's getting rid of the ball way, way quicker than he was last year. He's not trying to play hero ball. He's a little inconsistent with his accuracy, but he gives you the explosive plays. This is kind of what we saw out of Josh Allen early in his career, where he wasn't the most accurate quarterback yet, but his explosiveness is what brought the upside to his game. And I think that's what we're getting out of Caleb Williams. And I think this Bears offense right now currently is playing better than Philadelphia's offense. However, I still do not trust the Bears defense. I think that the Philadelphia offense will get going in this game against this weak Bears defense. What the Bears defense has been capitalizing on all season is takeaways. They are number 1 in the league in takeaways. So, and the one thing about the Eagles offense is they rarely turn the ball over. Yeah, they had 2 fumbles against Dallas, but those were kind of unforced errors. Dallas really went and punched the football out, and that was an uncharacteristic performance from Saquon Barkley. I don't expect him to have 22 yards rushing in this game. I think the Eagles will try to establish Saquon early on, and then Jalen Hurts will kill the Bears in one-on-one coverage when they have to cover A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. So I expect the Eagles, I think this is going to be a low-scoring game. I think it's going to be in the low teens to the mid to low 20s, and I expect the Eagles to squeak it out late. But I do think it's going to be a close, low-scoring, ugly game. I think Caleb Williams probably has about 50% completion percentage. I don't think he's going to be very consistent throwing the football in this game against this really good Eagles secondary. And if the Bears can lean on the run, then and control time of possession, then maybe they have a route to winning this game. So I think it's going to be close. It's going to be low scoring. It's going to be ugly. But ultimately, I think Philadelphia drags out the win in ugly fashion like they've done against the Packers and the Lions this year. So I expect that type of game script. I'm going to lean Philadelphia because I just trust them more right now than I trust the Bears. I need to see the Bears beat a top tier contender in order for me to trust them. But right now, I view them more as pretenders than contenders. So that's why I'm going to lean Philadelphia to win the game. But I do believe it's close, which is why I have the Bears covering the +7.5. Now for the 1 p.m. slate on Sunday, the very first game I'm going to be talking about is the Cleveland Browns hosting the San Francisco 49ers. It's going to be Shedeur Sanders' second career start, and I believe he gets his second career win. I'm going to be picking the Browns to upset the San Francisco 49ers. I believe it's either +6.5 or +5.5. It's a big number, and I think Cleveland can easily win this game. And I believe it's because of the really bad weather conditions in Cleveland. I believe it is projected to snow in this game. And I hate this game script for San Francisco. Brock Purdy just threw 3 picks. He has 3 out of his 4 starts this season, or 3 out of 5 starts. He's thrown multiple interceptions. This Browns defense is playing like one of the best in football. Myles Garrett is by far and away the defensive player of the year with 18 sacks in the season. I expect him to dominate this game. And then I think the Browns get some turnovers on Brock Purdy. I think that even if Kyle Shanahan goes with a conservative approach, the Browns can stop the run. So Christian McCaffrey, I think the Niners are going to have trouble moving the ball all game. Brock Purdy's going to start pressing. He's going to want to make big plays downfield, and it's going to get him into some trouble. And the Browns are going to get some sacks. They're going to get some turnovers, and I think Shedeur Sanders plays a clean game. He's been preaching all week about how he wants to take advantage of this opportunity, and he wants to be the guy in Cleveland. Well, if he's going to be the guy in Cleveland, he has to start winning games, because that's the only way that you're really going to establish yourself as the quarterback for next season is if you get results. And I think Shedeur's going to play clean football. They're going to lean on Quinshon Judkins like they did against the Raiders. Quinshon had 2 touchdowns against the Raiders. They ran the Wildcat formation a lot. The Niners have struggled to stop the run this season, so I expect Quinshon Judkins to have a big game. The Browns to get takeaways on the defensive side of the ball and to dominate this game defensively. If it's a low-scoring defensive game, I lean Cleveland all the way. They have won ugly games like that this season against the Packers, against the Raiders, and I'm forgetting who their second win was. It was against the Dolphins at home. So the Browns all season have been a gritty defensive team at home. I expect them to continue that trend this week against San Francisco. I don't get the number. I understand San Francisco's 8-4 and the Browns are 3-8. I simply don't care. Give me Cleveland to win the game. Now for the next game, it's going to be the Jacksonville Jaguars hosting the Tennessee Titans. I'm going to be picking the Jaguars to win and cover the spread, which is set at -6.5. And I'm just fading the Titans here. I don't trust the Jaguars at all. I picked them to win and cover the spread against Arizona. It was -2.5. Trevor Lawrence literally tried every possible way to give the Cardinals the game. He just kept turning the ball over time and time again. Trevor Lawrence almost lost the Jaguars the game, and he's been doing that all season. Really, the Jaguars have been winning in spite of Trevor, and it sucks because I really want Trevor to succeed. He's the #1 overall pick. He should be playing better with a great head coach in Liam Cohen, who's trying to maximize his potential, but he just keeps shooting himself in the foot. And he is so mistake prone. However, he shows signs of upside time and time again. He makes 1 great throw and then 2 really bad throws, and then 1 great throw, 2 really bad throws. He just cannot find any sort of consistency whatsoever. So that's why I really can't trust Jacksonville against great teams, but these past 2 weeks they have played losing teams in the Cardinals, and then this week the Titans. So I'm going to lean Jacksonville because I think they lean on the run game with ETN. I said Tank Bigsby last week. He doesn't play for Jacksonville anymore. And now I think Tootin is the backup. They're going to lean on both those guys to dominate this game and dominate time of possession. And that defense is going to get some turnovers off Cam Ward. So that's why I'm going to lean Jacksonville in this spot to get the win against the Titans and improve to 8-4 on the season. Now for the next game, it's going to be another AFC South matchup. It's going to be the Indianapolis Colts hosting the Houston Texans, and I think this is a really, really close game. I'm going to be leaning towards the Colts side of it because they are coming off a loss, and they're at home. They're one of the best offenses in the league. However, this is strength against strength. This is best offense in the league against best defense in the league in Houston. So I am going to be picking the Colts to win the game, but the Texans to cover the spread at +4.5. I think this is a field goal game. And I'm going to lean Colts because I think Jonathan Taylor is just simply too good. And the Colts are going to lean back into their identity. They got away from it last week against the Chiefs. That was in Kansas City. Now they're back home. And the Colts have been a very, very good home team this season. I believe all three of their losses were on the road, if I'm not mistaken. They lost in Los Angeles, they lost in Pittsburgh, and they lost in Kansas City. So the Colts are undefeated at home. I expect them to continue that trend this week. I expect them to squeak out a win against the Texans, and I think it's going to be due to Jonathan Taylor's greatness. Last week on Thursday Night Football, James Cook did rush for over 100 yards on that Texans defense, and the Bills struggled to throw the football. So I think the Colts are going to go with an extremely run-heavy approach, try to control time of possession, break down this Texans defense, and minimize Daniel Jones' margin for error and minimize his turnovers, because he has been turning the ball over recently. He didn't against the Chiefs, but he did make some crucial mistakes on third down by missing some throws and taking sacks. So in this spot, I expect the Colts to heavily lean on Jonathan Taylor. It is also CJ Stroud's first game back from concussion protocol, so that's also a thing to keep in mind. CJ hasn't played in a month, and the Texans went 3-0 in the stretch that he missed. So will CJ Stroud revert back to the way he was playing earlier this year, or will he revert back to 2022 CJ Stroud? Or I believe it was 2023 CJ Stroud, his rookie year. We're going to wait to see how that plays out. But yeah, I don't trust CJ in his first game back. I'm going to lean Colts because they have one of the league's best offensive players in Jonathan Taylor. I think he dominates this game. Now for the next game, it's going to be the Miami Dolphins hosting the New Orleans Saints. Both teams are coming off a bye week. I'm going to lean Miami. Actually, no, the Dolphins are coming off a bye week. The Saints are not. They just played this past week against the Falcons. So that's why I'm going to lean Miami. They're -5.5. I'm going to pick them to win and cover that spread. And I think it's because they're coming off a bye. I think their offense is going to look good with Tua, Jalen Waddle. They're probably going to dominate this game throwing the football. Kirk Cousins made a couple big throws against the Saints defense. And then on the other side of the ball, Tyler Show has been inconsistent. I trusted him last week because he had a great performance against the Panthers and then followed it up with 3 offensive points. So I can't trust the Saints team, especially on the road. So I'm going to lean Miami to win the game and cover the spread, which is set at -5.5, because I think their offense is going to play good and their defense is going to get some sacks and some turnovers off Tyler Show and that Saints offense. Now for the next game, it's going to be the Atlanta Falcons on the road in New York to play the Jets. This is probably the worst game of the entire slate. I'm going to lean Atlanta because I simply think they're just a better team. They're favored -2.5. I'm going to take them to win and cover that spread. I'm not confident in the pick at all. The Jets can most certainly win this game, but I just can't trust the Jets. So I think that right now with Tyrod Taylor at quarterback, the Jets offense really just has no life. They have no pass game. Their number one receivers, Adonai Mitchell and John Mechie. They're really young guys. The Jets are in complete rebuild mode. The Falcons still have a competent roster, and their defense is capable of getting turnovers like they did against the Saints last week. So I'm going to trust Atlanta's defense to get the job done in this spot and carry them to victory. And then they also have one of the best backs in football that they simply just refuse to use. They don't use Bijan enough. As enough as they should, in my opinion, but hopefully they do lean on him this game, give him a ton of usage, and he will make the most of that usage against a weak Jets defense. So that's why I like the Falcons in this spot. It has nothing to do with Kirk Cousins. I think Bijan Robinson dominates the game on the ground, and on the other side of the ball, the Falcons defense gets a ton of sacks and takeaways on that Jets offense. Now for the next game, it's going to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at home against the Arizona Cardinals. I'm going to pick the Bucs to win and cover the spread, which is set at -2.5. And if the Bucs were at full strength, the spread would probably be -6.5. But the Bucs are on a 3-game losing streak. It's very unfortunate. They started 6-2. Now they're 6-5. They've just been absolutely ridiculed by injuries all season. Baker Mayfield just screwed up his AC joint in his left shoulder. Then Chris Godwin's still not 100%. They're finally getting Bucky Irving back this week, so that's a great sign. I'm going to lean Bucs because I simply think they're just a way better team. They're in playoff contention. They're at home. They're in a desperate situation coming off 3 straight losses. I really hope they're not looking for a 4th. I think they're going to come out desperate, and they're going to play good football. Their defense better step up because they've been very underwhelming these past couple of weeks. So I think Jacoby Brissett, all year as a starter, he's been simply just throwing empty calories. All of his yards and touchdowns are all in garbage time or when the team is trailing, so I don't expect the Cardinals to play from ahead in this game. I expect them to play from behind. I think Baker will play in this game, and the Bucs will lead for a majority of the game. It might get close late, but I expect the Bucs to activate their clutch factor like they have in the beginning of the year and pull out a victory. So give me the Bucs to win and cover the spread, which is set at -2.5 at home. Now for the final game of the 1 p.m. slate, it's going to be the Los Angeles Rams on the road to play the Panthers. I'm going to pick the Rams to win and cover the spread, which is set at -10.5. I'm simply just fading the Panthers. I can't trust them. I picked them to cover the spread in San Francisco, and they got 3 interceptions. I'd hope with 3 interceptions you could cover a +7.5 spread, but they still couldn't. They had 3 interceptions at halftime and went into halftime down 7 points. I don't know how that's possible. Bryce Young just played awful in a big spot. I was vouching for the Panthers, being like, well, like, why don't we put him on primetime more? Well, that's exactly why, because Bryce Young just simply isn't built for the bright lights. And in this particular spot, they're playing the best team in the league far and away, which is the Rams. I expect Matt Stafford to build his MVP case further, throw for a couple touchdowns. They're going to control this game from start to finish, give me the Rams to win and cover. And I think it's because their offense is going to dominate. And Bryce Young, I really question his ability to get the yards down the field and even move the ball down the field against this elite Rams defense. So that's why I'm going to lean Rams to win and cover a big number. Now, for the first game of the 405 slate, it's going to be the Seattle Seahawks versus the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings are starting their third-string quarterback. I believe his name is Max Brosmer. And honestly, he might give them better quarterback play than J.J. McCarthy was. And honestly, the Seahawks, this could be a close game. I am going to pick the Seahawks to win, but I am going to pick the Vikings to cover the number, which I believe is negative. It's plus 11.5. That is the number. I'm going to pick the Vikings to cover that spread, but the Seahawks to win. I believe it's a massive number, and I believe the quarterback change for Minnesota is actually going to help them, which is really sad because McCarthy was a first-round pick. However, he's just been playing like absolute dog shit, if I'm being honest. He has not been good at all. He's making Justin Jefferson look like a middling receiver, which is just impossible. Even middling backups like Nick Mullins have made Jefferson average like over 80 yards a game, and with McCarthy, he's averaging under 50. So that's absolutely outrageous. I think that Brosmer is going to execute this Vikings offense better than McCarthy was. I'm not picking the Vikings to win the game, obviously, because Seattle is a juggernaut, and they're really good at home. They blow out inferior teams at home. But I am going to pick the Vikings to stick around in this game because I believe their defense is good enough to get some turnovers off Sam Darnold. Mind you, Sam Darnold played on the Vikings last year, so he was going against Brian Flores in practice every day. So if anyone knows Sam Darnold good, it's Brian Flores. So I expect him to have a game plan for the Seattle offense, and I believe Sam Darnold will turn the ball over a couple times in this game, and the Vikings will cash in those turnovers and keep it a close game. So that's why I'm going to pick the Seahawks to win, but the Vikings to cover the plus 11.5. Now for the next game, it's going to be the Buffalo Bills on the road against the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is going to be my second upset of the week. I'm going to be picking the Pittsburgh Steelers to win outright against the Bills. And I believe for the Bills, this is another nightmare matchup. It's very reminiscent of last Thursday night against the Texans. I think that this is a bad matchup for Buffalo because they might be down both offensive tackles, and they had them last week and still gave up 8 sacks to the Texans. Now they might both be out. And the Steelers have great edge rushers with Nick Herbig, Alex Highsmith, TJ Watt, and in the interior they have Derek Harmon and Cameron Hayward. So the Steelers' defensive line, I expect to dominate this game. And I think the Bills, once again, are without their top-tier playmakers. Dalton Kincaid did not practice once again, so he might miss another game, which means that the Bills really only have Khalil Shakir to throw to. And Keon Coleman might be another healthy scratch. They have Tyrell Shavers, who hasn't done much, and they're relying right now on their running backs in the pass game. So this Bills offense is extremely handicapped. Josh Allen in Pittsburgh in a hostile environment, and Aaron Rodgers is back for Pittsburgh. I love this matchup. I love this matchup for Pittsburgh. I believe they win outright because Aaron Rodgers takes care of the football. The Steelers lean on their run game with Jalen Warren and Kenneth Gainwell, who have been playing outstanding these last few weeks. I believe they both combined for over 200 yards, and the Steelers dominate this game, dominate time of possession. Josh Allen tries to play hero ball, gets himself into trouble. I believe the Steelers have 5+ sacks, and they dominate this game defensively. I'm going to pick the Steelers to win outright at home against the Buffalo Bills. Now for the final game of the 425 slate, it's going to be the Las Vegas Raiders on the road to play the Los Angeles Chargers. I'm going to be picking the Chargers to win and cover the spread, which is set at -9.5. The Raiders, honestly, right now are one of the worst 2 teams in football, along with the Tennessee Titans. They're just playing awful football. They just fired their offensive coordinator, Chip Kelly, and the Chargers are off a bye. They're rested. They're getting Amari Hampton back. Justin Herbert finally gets some rest after getting beat up due to his bad offensive line. Really, all the Chargers have to focus on is blocking Max Crosby. As long as they do that effectively, then they're going to win this game with ease. I'm going to pick the Chargers to win and cover the spread, which is set at -9.5. On the other side of the ball, Geno Smith threw 3 interceptions in the first matchup between the Chargers and the Raiders. I expect them to have a similar game. I don't think Ashton Genty can really get going in this game against the Chargers defense at all in terms of running the football. He's been improving as a pass catcher, but in terms of running the ball, Genty's been very inefficient, and it's no fault of his own. It's his offensive line that's just playing awful. They're not even blocking for him. Every time he gets a handoff, it feels like he's getting tackled as soon as he receives the handoff. So it sucks for Genty. It's just been an absolute horrible season for the Raiders. Very undermining and very disappointing because their expectations were pretty high given that they brought in Pete Carroll and Geno Smith to change the culture, and they've done the opposite. They've gotten even worse. So I'm going to lean Chargers in this spot because I think they're just a way better team and off a bye week. Now for Sunday Night Football, it's going to be the Denver Broncos on the road to play the Washington Commanders. This number's really low. It's -5.5 Denver, and I'm going to lean Denver to win and cover the spread. I just don't see a scenario where Marcus Mariota is able to keep this close against that vaunted Broncos defense coming off a bye week. Both these teams are coming off a bye, but Denver, I think, is going to really capitalize off this bye week because I think that Bo Nix and Sean Payton had a bye week to reassess their offense, who has been getting off to slow starts in pretty much every game. But I think this game, off a bye, they're going to come out prepared. And against this weak Washington defense, I expect a big game from RJ Harvey and the pass game from the Broncos. I think they come out lights out. They get ahead very early on in this game. I think it's going to look very reminiscent to Seahawks Commanders Sunday Night Football. I think the Broncos can easily blow out the Washington in this spot. Give me the Broncos to win and cover the spread, which is set at -5.5. And now for Monday Night Football, it's going to be my New York Giants on the road to play the New England Patriots, and this is going to be my upset of the week. I am picking the Giants to win in Foxborough, and Jackson Dart is officially coming back from his concussion. I believe that is the case because he did practice in full on Wednesday, and all he has to do is clear concussion protocol, which I believe he will, so he will be ready to play in this game. And we're getting Jackson Dart versus Drake May. I think this is going to be a great game. The Giants finally fired Shane Bowen, their defensive coordinator, and that was long overdue. That should have been done probably after week 2 against the Cowboys when we blew that lead, but then we continued to blow leads against great teams. The Giants are 2-10. They are not a 2-10 football team. They have been in every single game they have played, and I think this is finally when their luck turns around, and they are finally able to hold a lead in the fourth quarter in this game. I think the Giants are going to lead this game for a majority of the game. And it's going to be because of their offense. Their offense has been very underrated this season. And yeah, we're losing games, but we're losing games putting up 27 points, putting up 32 points, putting up 20-plus points in pretty much every game. And we keep losing because our defense keeps blowing late leads. But now we finally made that defensive coordinator change. I expect our defense to play lights out for a couple of reasons. Will Campbell, left tackle of the Patriots, just got put on IR. The Giants have a very good pass rush. They have Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence, and I believe Kayvon Thibodeau's out, but they still have Abdul Carter. I believe our pass rush is going to make things very, very difficult for Drake May, and I think that our pass rush is going to massively affect Drake May in this game. We're going to get pressure on the quarterback. We're going to sack Drake May, force him into probably a mistake or two. I think the Patriots come out flat in this spot, and the Giants capitalize on it and get their third win of the season. I think Jackson Dart on the other side of the ball plays excellent football like he has all of his rookie season. I think he takes care of the ball. He uses his legs, and he makes some plays downfield to Wan'Dale Robinson, Theo Johnson. Both those guys have been very underrated this season. I think the Giants come out, play inspired football, and they catch the Patriots lacking. I think the Giants will win this game outright and get the upset. And that is going to be it for this week's picks, and I will see you guys next time for when I release my top 10 teams in the NFL after week 13.